Imagine with me for just a moment. You're walking in the woods, there's no one around, and your phone is dead. And out of the corner of your eye, you spot it.
Surprise! Listen, you little
Darkwood is one of the most incredible horror games to have ever been made, marrying exceptional audio, twisted visual designs, and a fascinating story concept with all the benefits of a top-down game, exaggerated to great effect. In my time in Darkwood, which at this point has been years, I have never found myself bored even once, found the game lacking, or felt it at ease. And for a top-down game to achieve such a significant accomplishment speaks volumes to the talent and dedication of the game studio who created it, Acid Wizard Studio. What is it about Darkwood that brought it heads and shoulders above every other game that's attempted to capture a similar atmosphere? And where the hell is your like on this video? By the way, huge thank you to all of my Twitch subs and patrons. Without you, this channel literally couldn't exist right now, and I mean that wholeheartedly. If you also want to support, with sneak peeks and a direct line to me on the Patron Council, more details are in the description. Darkwood enthralls and captivates its audience with three major components, one of which, strangely, is its top-down perspective. Many games, a perspective like this is considered limiting, preventing player freedom and reducing the overall reach of the game, regardless of how incredible it is. Yet somehow Acid Wizard successfully took this weakness and turned it into one of the game's greatest strengths. With your vision limited, your perspective restricted to a mere pittance of a first or third-person game, you find yourself relying more consistently on audio and environmental cues. It's stated very clearly that the world behaves as if the very trees and gnarled roots twist and move, trying to block out your vision and suppress your freedom while navigating. A feature that would be a nightmare to implement in first person, a perspective terrible for pushing players into encounters when they can just spot enemies from hundreds of meters away without using something like an ugly fog or spawning trickery. Nay, indeed, the use of this bird's eye view truly does march hand in hand with the lighting system to craft the hand-built horror experience craved by a player base. I've never said this for a game before, but I genuinely believe that had Acid Wizard chosen to shift perspectives, giving us a game in first person rather than bird's eye, this game would have been anywhere near as universally beloved as it is. And that's just the perspective. With such a limited view, you find yourself relying heavily on sound. Every crack of a snapped twig an indicator of hostile intent, every throaty growl or yelp of displeasure evidence of yet another creature for whom you would be naught but a snack. And at night, when the woods quieten down, every creature, great and small, cowering in their nests and dens, terrified of what stalks them in life, audio truly becomes your one and only friend. I would say undoubtedly these two features, audio and perspective, are the strongest Darkwood puts forward, though as you'll see when we explore the game itself shortly, they are by far and away not the only strengths, with monster designs and world crafting hand-built for the love of the craft. Learning how to present a game like Darkwood and learning how to make these videos well is very difficult for me. Do I talk about my experiences, what I love and hate? Do I take you by the hand and lead you with me through the world as I saw it, keeping the secrets I missed hidden to entice you to explore yourself? Or do I do a deep dive, exposing all the secrets and lore hidden away in corners? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think there's a good answer for how these style of videos can be made. But this time, I want to show you it all. Go through all the major locations, the story beats, and the intrigue, and gush excitedly about everything you'll find therein. The prologue is the tutorial chapter of Darkwood, placing you in control of a local doctor, plagued by the miserable realization of his situation, and inability to help those suffering with the various ill effects the woods inflict upon its residents. With the goal of siphoning off fuel from a nearby tractor, Darkwood takes us through the various systems we will encounter throughout the game, tutorializing the players through vaulting, interactions, crafting, and darkness, as well as combat. Look away. Alright. The environmental design is fascinating, corpses and rituals on display that the Doctor picks his way past with nary a comment, implying either a detached personality or more likely that this has become such a common way of life in the woods, it's not worth giving more than a passing thought anymore. It's fantastic storytelling, the kind that many games companies seem unable to do anymore without quirky, snappy comments from sarcastic characters. Your quiet contemplation is interrupted by the discovery of the protagonist. The stranger, gravely wounded with little on his person other than a key, the Doctor rescues him, carrying him home. He's unconscious. I've never seen him around here before. He's only carrying a key and some journal. Since he managed to sneak in here, he must know how to get out. Sorry. Unfortunately for the stranger, for us, the Doctor seems to have snapped with the realization that there may well be a way to escape this accursed place after all. And even the best of people can do evil things when trapped in a corner with only one way out. Our control shifts, departing from the beleaguered and disturbed Doctor to take control of the main character for the remainder of the game. All we are aware of at this point is our immediate need to escape, to get back our key and leave the forest forever. The horror ratchets up a notch, with us using our newly developed crafting skills to escape the room, only to come face to face with the paranormal side of the forest. Hauntings, curses, darkness, and the static of an accursed radio blaring out the password to the locked room. It's an eerie atmosphere, one of tension that only serves to increase the player's paranoia when they unlock the northern door. An insane man, another captive of the Doctor who upon his death drops a plastic chick. A hint to his ties to a later character in the story.
How do you want to get out now? You think you can manage all by yourself?
This isn't the man talking. His skull has been thoroughly caved in by the protagonist. Instead, it's heavily implied that this is the forest itself talking. Conversing with a stranger and attempting to influence his mind negatively, break his spirit, and keep him as another victim of his tangled roots. The darkness comes, the pressure intensifies, and creatures break down the meager protections the Doctor had hastily erected until at last we fall, dragged down into the inky abyss by shadowy toothed figures no human could hope to withstand. And yet, despite everything, there's still one more lesson the Prologue has to teach us before setting us loose in its dark woods. Not everyone is an enemy, and we are not alone in our fight. We're rescued, saved from the clutches by the kind-hearted trader who, in his infinite wisdom, deposits us in the Dry Meadow safe house, a safe place to base our operations from in future. The first day is always a scramble of organization and stock taking, so I was surprised as hell when I came face to face with Wolf? I have played this intro likely over 15 times now, and I have never, ever seen Wolf show up as the first character you meet before the night. It's a stroke of luck for sure, and an indicator that I will surely have an easy time of it this run. Wolf is a character that will give you some interesting suggestions throughout Chapter 1. A reveler in chaos, he has interesting items and gear to trade for the right price, and that price, and the price for everything, is reputation. The trader and Wolf will both require this reputation to purchase items, Wolf providing in spades for pulling pranks. Incredibly useful, especially since the trader will show up every morning to check on the player and be available for trades. At least in Chapter 1 he will. The Dry Meadow location is the best place to ease a player into this experience. It can be ball-bustingly hard if you stumble in the wrong location unprepared. But each and every encounter here is one you can spot in advance. Consider whether or not it's something you can handle and flee if necessary. It's a comfortable place to be, at least during the day. Before we explore the various delightfully bizarre locations of the Dry Meadow, first, let me tell you about The darkness in Darkwood is a lethal hunting hour, the time when all creatures dark and deadly descend upon Darkwood with baneful intents. Cover is needed, somewhere defensible and safe that you can barricade up and remain hidden within. That's alright, you might be thinking. I'll just hide away in this little alcove over here, stuff the corridor full of wardrobes, and hide away from all the nasties. I thought this game was meant to be hard. Stop. You are not a resident of these woods, an outsider, a virus infiltrating and infecting, stealing and consuming resources that otherwise would be going to the natural residents. And like a virus, the body of this forest is a way to flush you out. So unless you want to end up like this poor fella, you should follow this one simple rule. Oh, hey Wolf. When it starts to get dark, when night begins to fall, return to your safe house. You'll know it when you see it, for the strange oven contraption that you can light when you find it. This gas will hide you from the wood's prying eyes as it seeks to repel you from its body, though it will do very little, or indeed nothing at all, against the other residents. Okay, so avoid creatures during the day, stay at the safe house at night, and repel hostiles who seek to consume my supple form until dawn breaks. Then scavenge resources from the various locations in order to advance, and eventually, hopefully, make our escape? Seems simple, but as I discussed in the intro, Acid Wizard took this simple gameplay loop and crafted around it a world of auditory and visual depth and deliciousness that makes a wholly brilliant, unique experience. And with this unique experience comes some curious locations. Let's have a look at what the Dry Meadow has to offer. The first structure that the stranger will likely stumble across is the Burned Houses, a location that holds a rather depressing story if you seek to dive deeper. After you clear out the pack of mutts that have taken this place as a den, you may discover a safe hidden beneath a sofa which contains a white dress and some fabric. Fabric is possibly one of the most important resources early game, so be sure to grab this one, but the white dress is disturbing. It's something we'll touch on later, once we dive down deeper into one of the storylines, but it's a sad one. The underground entrance is never too far from the burned house, and as you start the game with it being marked on your map, curiosity will naturally drive the player to investigate. Tiptoeing past a sneaky trap and pushing aside a hasty wardrobe barricade, which is apparently put there to keep something inside, the player descends into the tunnels to attempt to make a hasty escape. Disturbing root growths pulsate as we pass, reminiscent of a living organ in its viscous, dripping visage, and above us, out of the stranger's view, but unfortunately in ours, something terrible scuttles. The door at the end of the tunnel is inaccessible, the key still being in the hands of the treacherous doctor. The forest does not take kindly to our attempts to escape, however, and with a reverberating rumble of crumbling earth, we hear the scuttling creature emerge from the darkness to pursue us. And if you've never encountered this creature before, this sound is absolutely terrifying. Failed to escape and you're caught up to by a red chomper. A monstrosity very rare in the Dry Meadows, but unfortunately far more common in the later game. Fast as hell, strong as hell, and capable of ripping the stranger to shreds with ease, it's best to flee for now. We will return when we have the key. A few other locations offer curiosities, like Wolfman's Camp, where we can find the breathy, feral creature lounging lazily with a lolling tongue. He gives the player directions to head into the silent forest, but otherwise has very little to say, considering the meat hasn't proven himself to be interesting. Other than that, the only location is one that you may only enter by invitation. In the middle of the night, you may hear a knocking at the door. Be brave, for the creatures that wish you harm wouldn't waste any time being so polite. Instead, you may find a nice present, a shiny rock, some wood, or an invitation to a white wedding. A trail of bridal flowers lures the player through a hedge maze. Wagons, tables, and tractors adorned with the bright, colourful ornamentations of an impending celebration. While, yes, you can come here without an invitation, it's only after that you may spot dancing alone a ghostly bride. Ignore her, push past the rabid dog, and enter the house. The interior is much the same as the exterior, decorated for a lavish wedding with 3 tables covered in delicious food. The groom is sitting at the far end, repeatedly banging his head against the table to the tune of a discordant radio. Weird, but move past the poor concussed fellow and into the poorly lit yard beyond. Brides dance a waving flow between the trees, inviting us to party, to celebrate. At this point, a sensible player will decide that it's time to leave. Whatever the hell is going on here is not something we want to take part in. Unfortunately, it's already too late. The groom is gone, the northern door slams shut and locks behind us. Lights pop and someone begins slamming on the locked metal door, screaming their mantra against the discordant, harrowing musical tones until, with a heaving crash, the door is breached and a unique red chomper spills into the room wearing a wedding dress. With a howling invitation to dance, it pursues you relentlessly until you either flee the house, whereupon the door will lock permanently behind you, or you stand your ground and put an end to this creature. Absolutely terrifying. By now, barring some campsites and logging sites, the player will have experienced everything of interest in the dry meadows. The nights were tame, the map uncovered, and loot acquired. It's time to earn the respect of Wolf and try to make our way into the second major biome of Chapter 1. Darkwood has removed his gloves and is now seeking to blat your face in. Welcome to the Silent Forest. It's time to run to the new hideout. Plying the services of the ever-kind bike man to transfer resources over to our new hideout, we kit up, hammer in place defenses to keep out the dark, and hunker down. Before we do that though, we found enough mushrooms for an upgrade, and a vision. The upgrades in Darkwood are not stat boosts, nor simple choices to make, as they are a collection of unique benefits that must be balanced out by the negatives that come with them. Sure, now you can see further, and hell, if the enemy hits me, I'll just wipe my acid blood on them like some xenomorphic monstrosity. However, now I'm a weakling who slaps like a child when low on stamina. Was it worth it? The more interesting part of the upgrades, however, by far, are the hallucinations, a collection of experiences that occur on every second level up, placing the main character in strange, bizarre scenarios. It is theorized, by the most dumb person I know, me, that these hallucinations are tied to a similar practice used by both pagans of the past and neo-pagans of today, where they would ingest hallucinogens in order to attempt to contact higher beings for guidance. Unfortunately for us, while under the purview of the deep, green canopy above, there is only one higher being listening to us, and they have some interesting things to say, if you'll only listen. They are well worth pursuing. Though I won't waste your time talking through each one individually, they stand out as a story-delivering device that I used quite heavily for the prologue of this video. Regardless, our hallucination ends, and unfortunately, our first night in this new location begins. Something has sniffed out our new hiding spot, and is coming. Oh, it was just a cultist. I got all worked up for nothing. It is dark and full of terrors. Unfortunately for us, this isn't the worst of them. Moving on. The Silent Forest is a myriad of intertwined tales wrapping between characters and locations, all of them built around the pleasure, or displeasure, of the lupine fellow who greeted us at the very beginning. Wolf. Do as he says, and he will be your best friend, licking your face and telling you to leave and never return. Don't? Well, he's never one to shy away from hunting an unhelpful chunk of meat. In my playthrough, I opted to assist him to a point, though the first thing I did was very much not to his enjoyment. Piotrek is a delightful young would-be astronaut who seeks the stars. Living in a house and terrified of a beast who has taken over his workshop, he will provide many a delightful conversation to an inspiring hero who would rid him of that monster. He seeks a few more choice tools and mechanical components to finish his explorer of the cosmos. To us, junk, worthless and valueless components of various tractors we scrap on our adventures. But to him, truly joyful and inspiring pieces of technology. A battery, likely dead, is a hybrid rocket engine to fuel his adventures. A fan belt is a hold-the-door stabilizer. A rotten steering wheel, a trajectory guidance system, and a tire is a space rocket chassis. The mind of a child, once so undulled by the tedious march of time, is so capable of creating such wonder and magic in their own mind. Surely handing over this junk to him Just to see a smile on his face is worth it, right? I mean, he can't actually be making a rocket out of this.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour.
Piotrek rose above the treetops in his rocket made out of scrap. He smiled as, peeking through the small plastic window of his spaceship, he saw the Milky Way stars moving away at huge speed. Holy shit, you go, little man! And, for the record, if you do happen to try to please Wolfman's whims for this particular quest, Piotrek completed building his rocket made of scrap. But when he started the engine, the rumble of the explosion spread through the whole woods, to the great delight of the man with the wolf's snout. No amount of loot is worth that. Besides, we can help Wolf with other matters, like genocide. Let me explain. Okay, he wants us to go to a place to steal a key, and as a little bonus side quest, kill a pig. Doesn't sound that bad, so off we go to... There's an entrance to the village in the Silent Forest, a place outside of time, as in, time is frozen. However, I genuinely don't know if that's because it's an actual place frozen outside of the normal flow of time by the power of the forest, or just a gameplay mechanic. I'm leaning towards gameplay mechanic because the alternative gives the woods a terrifying amount of power. It's a rustic place, full of quirky or unfriendly characters, and people who are succumbing to the disease hinted at by the doctor. Loot decorates this place like shells on a beach, so stocking up is an absolute necessity here. But as you rob these poor people blind, you hear a consistent reference to meat. Meat. A pig. Pigs wander around aimlessly. If there's no meat, surely these will suffice, no? Wolf, ever the helpful chap, informs our curiosity about the villagers with a quest. It turns out that the village is wholly reliant food-wise on a single source located nearby. Interesting. And hey, if we quiet down the infernal shrieking, then we get a reward. Why not go check it out? I can't really defend my choice here, other than to say that this thing, I just couldn't let it keep living. Whatever it was, whatever they did to it, it was wrong. Besides, there's pigs and chickens abound in the village. There's no reason for them to turn to drastic measures when there's... Help yourself, whatever you fancy. Just don't tell anybody about it. Oh god, no. What the hell have you done? Things aren't friendly in the Silent Forest anymore. The villagers are out to get us. Understandably. We did just inflict upon them a slow and agonizing death by starvation. Fortunately, other than minor locations freely explorable, there's only one more choice to be made in the Silent Forest before moving on. And that is the fate of the Pretty Lady. Mutated, grotesque, and horrifying. Her death rattle gasps for air can be heard as you approach her room, and they infect the mind with visions of pure, undiluted suffering. The fate of this lady can be terrible, or far, far worse. Outside of the house is a key figure to the fate of the lady. A musician, albeit a rather terrible one, who holds a tentative crush on the lady whom he catches glimpses of through the window from time to time. His storyline, his life thread, his path can go three ways. Unfortunately for him, I chose the path that may not necessarily be for the best. One of the endings, you can give him the key to the door to allow him to set the Pretty Lady free. Doing this is abjectly his worst ending. Based on your experience through the doctor's eyes, your own experience with the creatures who stalked the forests after being infected with a mysterious disease, it should be obvious to you now that whatever the Pretty Lady has become, it's no longer a human. When left to her own devices, the Chicken Lady's sister freed herself and set out to hunt for fresh meat. Many days later, she found her admirer in an old silo. The little musician did not get to enjoy the sight of the pretty lady for long. Unfortunately, ignoring her is also not an option. The fates wouldn't be so kind. When left to her own devices, the chicken lady's sister freed herself and set out to hunt for fresh meat. No. Indeed, the only good way to handle this situation is to obey the overbearing wolf and give him the key. His glee is uncomfortable, and dipping our toes into the old woods briefly here, her fate is bleak. With the disappearance of her sister, the chicken lady falls into a deep despair, leaving her house to try to find her. Unfortunately, the woods are not a kind place to a lone, old woman. The woman living with the chickens left her hut and journeyed into the forest in search of her missing sister. Since then, the chicken lady's house is inhabited only by wild poultry. There is one more fate you can give to this trio, at least as a group. I'm not going to go too deep into the alternate thread line of the musician's quest. However, if you are to follow it to its conclusion, keep the key from the big bad wolf's grasp and mercy kill the pretty lady. You may come to a secret ending where the chicken lady instead opts to care for the musician, which may not be as wholesome as it sounds. As written, the woman living with the chickens fell into deep despair after losing her sister. The sadness brought her closer to the lonely boy with the violin. She wanted to fill the void after her loss, and thus she took him under her roof, tending to him like she once tended to her sister. So, either the musician finds a kindred soul with a chicken lady, or she has him strapped down to a bed, covered with a sheet, and keeping him alive simply for the company. Considering how bleak this game can be, well, it's best not to think about it. This is the truly fascinating part of the Silent Forest and part of the Old Woods. While the Dry Meadow serves as an introduction to this exceptional game, this is by far and away where the entire meat of the game lies. Moral choices, the wish to progress hanging over the players like a pungent bouquet, leading them to make some truly difficult choices to escape. Me? I did what I thought was right, and unfortunately that choice missed out on a lot of truly fascinating side stories. Though I did get to experience other truly wonderful things for that same choice. If you choose to experience this game for yourself, and I wholeheartedly hope you will, I urge you to experience the other side of it. Explore the unknown, help the musician, and see where the path leads, and then report back here in the comments. Share your experience with me, and we can have experienced the whole game together. I've made my choices, one that will inflict an unfortunate amount of suffering upon the residents of the village, but it's one that I will live with. It's time to leave. It's time to experience the culmination of the choices made in Silent Forest rear their head here, with the rather unfortunate demise of the pretty lady in our timeline, as shown earlier. A cheerful, far too cheerful and fat-bellied wolf gives us the location of the doctor's house. A braver man would end this foul beast now that we've received the information, but alas, I am not a brave man. I seek escape, and so we must chase the craven doctor. Before that though, we should spend our first night in the Old Woods. How bad could it possibly be? It started with an infestation of darkness, lamps shuddering and cracking as the full weight of the forest's gaze comes upon our abode. Creatures stalk the halls, drawn by our desperate lights, shining out into the darkness and calling hell upon us. A distant scream. The banshees are being drawn by the creatures and, unfortunately for us, the creatures have found our hiding spot. We shoot, we battle, we flee out the window and we try to make our escape. Unfortunately, the chompers prove to be too much to handle and we are brought down. Our first death. So I made the executive decision to say the Old Woods and bug the hell out. Luckily, connecting the Old Woods and the Dry Meadow is that old burned house we explored earlier. Head on down there, unlock that shortcut, and kick up your feet to relax in the Dry Meadow during the evening. Sure, it'll add a few hours to your journey every day heading back and forth, but anything is better than evening secured, cowardice cemented, and items retrieved. It's time to hunt the damned doctor down. Let's explore his home again. The trees have made significant progress since we were last here, the crawling gargantuan root system clawing deep gouges in the air, slicing apart landscape with relentless force. Fortunately, there is still a path forward to us. Picking our way through a health facility, bypassing the corpses and wailing madmen, we find the doctor's home. It's the same as it was in the prologue, albeit ravaged and destroyed in the attack we faced oh so bravely. Judicial looting, as befitting of any gremlin of my type, results in a healthy amount of supplies, and far more importantly, a map to the train wreck with a code. That's where the bastard is hiding, and it's there we will finally get closure for the prologue. Before that, let me finally finish the storyline I hinted at earlier. If you have been taking your hallucinogens like a good resident, you will have seen the church ruins before. Located deep within the heart of the old woods, the player will stumble across this location in one of the dreams inflicted on us. In this dream, we explore the church, much to the displeasure of the ghostly figures who are lined up in front of the pulpit, demanding our obeisance. Disobeying them and unlocking a nearby room will net us an axe, and far more interestingly, a strange box. Before we can explore further, a black chomper assaults us and takes us down, ending the dream while muttering a mantra.
A red seesaw, a white dress, a black box for my girls.
The box has no key. The Wolfman shows an uncharacteristic interest in it. The key is located in the real world's version of the church ruins, where in my timeline, a madman sits muttering a new mantra.
A red one, a green one, for my little girls.
He calls us a thief for stealing of his strange box, and entices us to enter the basement of the church with a code. It's dark, and the noises. It sounds more like the chompers infest these halls. Fortunately, I came here heavily armed, and I can just put down the mutated corpses before they transform with ease, right? That was a mistake. After returning with my metaphorical tail between my legs and significantly more humble pie consumed, we clear the way with care and acquire a twisted key, which we can then take to the wolf for opening the box. Inside is some children's drawings that finally reveal to us the whole story of the burned houses. There was a house in the woods inhabited by a happy family, a father and his 2 daughters and their pet dog. The dog has spots, so I'm going to call him Spot. Spot, being a dog, decides to one day consume a strange mushroom, and as a result, bites the father on the wrist before unfortunately passing away. Seeing his daughter saddened by this, the father deconstructs the doghouse and builds them a red seesaw, which cheers them up immensely. Unfortunately, this happiness is short-lived, as not long later the military rolls into town and burns down their houses in an attempt to control the spreading disease. The family, now refugees, flee to the nearby church where they're directed by the doctor into the basement, either as a place to sleep or simply as a place to quarantine the obviously sick individuals here. The trapdoor is pictured as a place of salvation in the children's minds. The father stays above, likely to try to protect the trapdoor from the military, and the final picture in the collection is of the 2 sisters, surrounded by diseased corpses, who were likely already well into their transformation into the monstrous chompers who assaulted us earlier, and, alone in the darkness, scared and bereft of even light, the sisters either starve to death or are consumed. The father, mad with grief, remains above, guarding the trapdoor ad infinitum, until the player comes across him, stealing the strange box, the final memories of his daughters, from his hands. Yes, it may have clicked for you now, and if it hasn't, let me explain. The hallucinations, at least in this situation, happen in real life. You, tripping on the hallucinogens and influence of the woods, stumbled upon the church and, shown a visage, a facet of the insanity racking the father's mind from guilt, steal the strange box from him. Worst of all, if you successfully take the axe to the Black Chomper in the dream, when you next approach the church in reality, you'll find him split in twain, slain by your hands. This in turn confirms that those special Black Chompers are not in fact monsters. These are real humans. In the case of the Prologue, they were angry villagers who had come for the doctor, and in the case of the church, a weeping, broken father being transformed in your mind into monstrous figures. Whether this is a reflection of how the woods see them, a direct manipulation on his part, or simply a result of the mushrooms is unknown. But frankly, it doesn't matter. If you choose to consume the mushrooms to steal the power of the woods for your own, you will be forced to steal this father's last reminder of his baby girls before they were stolen from him by a cruel, twisted world. And it is a choice. You don't have to take the mushrooms or get upgrades. They don't affect the ending. Make of that what you will. You are a monster. Anyway, we head on out of the church, the madman in our timeline having fled the area, likely never to be found again. Heading over to the train wreck, we get the drop on the doctor, busting our way into the train car and confronting him, whereupon he'll break down and return our key, placing himself at our mercy.
Please, this key is my only chance. Help me escape this place. Help me or kill me.
I've had enough being a bad guy. My soul cannot take the weight of the strain of pain I placed upon it as it is, and any more would split it in twain. I give him the location of the underground entrance and promise to meet him there. We will escape together. Or not at all. For the longest time, and by the longest time, I mean since my first ever playthrough, this is always where I stopped. Whether with vague promise of continuing someday, or through medical or mental emergency, my adventures always ended at this point. A story unfinished is a story in flux, and it bounced around my mind relentlessly for years, resulting in many a halting attempt to play it. I half expected my house to burn down, a meteor to strike me off this earth for even daring to try to finish this story. So here it is. This is the end of Darkwood, and the end of an enormous chapter of my life. So welcome to the end of the Darkwoods. It all begins with We meet the doctor at the exit door of the underground passage, fortunately, chomper-free. Following his steps beyond the door, we halt as the doctor spots a figure, trapped under the rubble and wriggling. When I gaze into the tunnel, I notice a silhouette of a man. Suddenly, the man snaps to life from a deep slumber.
Who goes there?
As I approach him, he shuffles his legs nervously, as if trying to retreat into the collapsed tunnel.
I didn't do anything. I beg you, I just wanted to pass, to get back to my family. The tree has blocked the only way out, the only path home. A huge, talking tree. I begged it to let me pass, but it wouldn't listen. I couldn't understand what it was saying to me, so I came here. I can't get up. My head hurts.
The man places his hand on his forehead and feels a strange dent above his left brow. He freezes.
What is this?
He carefully inserts his index finger into the hole. His eyelid twitches.
My stone.
I hear a sound as if an eggshell cracking. The forehead bends under his hand. The stranger pushes another finger into the hole, and a thick goo spews from the wound. I can hear his skull cracking.
I will stone.
The man slowly removes his fingers from the hole in his head, a colorless ooze dripping from them. He's holding something, a round object.
That's why.
He swings his left hand and throws the object at me. A small, irregular ball bounces off my arm and lands at my feet. It looks like a bullet, but it's soft. The doctor is fleeing, terrified by what we witnessed. I don't blame him. If I saw a man dig a bullet out of his skull while being pinned to the floor by forest roots, I'd also get the hell out of there as fast as possible. Following in his steps, we press onward past ghostly figures who echo the statements from the fallen man, his spirits being carried on the stagnant air that guides us to the exit, and toward the swamp proper, passing by a physical manifestation of the wood's endlessly searching gaze. If the prologue was the tutorial, and chapter 1 was the main story chunks about the residents of the wood, Chapter 2 is undoubtedly and indisputably where the story of the stranger is wrapped up. The choices we made will shape the rest of our journey indelibly, and it all begins when we emerge bleary-eyed in our hideout with one goal and one goal only: escaping these woods once and for all. We spend the vast majority of the first day, like always, scoping out the area and picking our survival spots. Interestingly, we find a couple of documents in this area that hint that this old hideout actually being an ex-military spy outpost. Scribblings of concentric circles and, far more interestingly, a diary from a military personnel detailing the existence of a mysterious tree growing at extreme speed. It also hints at the need for an oxygen, and far more important to us, a nearby landmark to investigate, and the fact that they had to evac due to the locals discovering them. Whatever their purpose was here, they were trying not to be caught, unsuccessfully. With little spare time in the day, I decided to at least explore a small amount of the Eastern Front, which seemed honestly like it was going to be a breeze. I mean, just a meaty dog. Swamp is a piece of cake. Until... yeah, this place is There are 3 new enemies, and a 4th I never saw, unfortunately. The human spider, a delightful amalgamation of human corpses puppeted by the eldritch horror with the sole purpose of defending the entrances to the tree. A centipede, which... God, dude, look at this. Holy sh! And a swamper, an adorable Spider-Man looking villain. Oh, yeah, that's, of course. It has a human body attached to it. Yikes. These 3 stalk their own respective regions: the swamper in the swamp, the centipedes in holes, and a human spider guarding the tree, and all 3 pack a brutal punch, and are terrifying to navigate around. Navigate around we shall though, for there are consequences to our actions to explore. After a terrifying night of spooky horrors, we meet the traders for the region. The 3. Reeking of shrooms and mute, they show up eerily at the start of every day to sell you their stuff. What happened to the lovely, friendly trader, you ask? I don't like that goo is spreading. No! The body of the man wearing a helmet, his head has been severed. It's the trader! Someone scratched out the word liar on the helmet's viewfinder. Why would someone hurt him? Why would he follow us? He said he wasn't going to. These 3 are the eldest sons of a family of 7, the mother and 4 other siblings of which fled despairingly into the swamp when the nearby village began to starve. The 3 remaining sons also began to starve, dying slowly of malnutrition, causing the father to convince them to try to steal food from the emergency rations the village had scrounged, until, unfortunately, they were caught, and the 3 barricaded themselves in the basement, leaving the father to face the villagers' wrath. His death is implied to be brutal, and due to the revenge aspect, it was undoubtedly slow. The 3, still just sickly children, were banished from the village and their house destroyed, whereupon they roamed the swamp, communing with the creatures and adorning themselves with masks of stick and muck, embracing their new lives and embracing the woods, letting them live somewhat fulfilling experiences. It really, truly seems that the more you embrace the new reality, giving in to the existence of the woods and becoming beholden to the entity that now presides therein, gives you a certain immunity to its poison. Infections that would have once killed you now fold you into their welcoming embrace and twist you into a new form. One's far better and more capable of surviving the new twisted world they're trapped in. Meanwhile, the villagers who spend their days battling against the wood, defying its changes, and instead forcing the mutations upon their livestock in an attempt to survive, find themselves embittered and embattled by the presence, albeit significantly less than the stranger is. Speaking of embracing the woods, our old pal the Doctor goes through a hell of an arc this chapter. He is the best example of a man who stood in stark defiance to the woods, denying its gifts, and fighting to stave off its influence in the village. For his efforts, he was turned on by the villagers, his house destroyed, his mind ruined, and chased out into the old woods. Forced to follow a man he tried to steal an exit from, only to find that the existence of an exit was a cold lie, he gives up. His transformation is gradual, our first meeting seeing him carve the symbols of the tree on his flesh, but over time, as we meet up with him again and again, he begins his gradual transformation into a savage, giving up the last vestiges of resistance his mind had remaining, and becoming one with the forest, seemingly becoming much happier for it. Our first meeting with him, before he gives in to the influence entirely, he at least has the capability of speech, and he tells us straight.
You don't belong to this land. You weren't here when the forest was born. You're a splinter, a foreign body, a vagabond, and them. The forest and everything else here. These are the antibodies, even the morons from the village. Raising white blood cells in an infected bloodstream. That's the reason you hide from us.
Us. It's a powerful word, one that juxtaposes against his insistent and repeated reflections of himself and I at the beginning of the game, and final nail in the coffin of the Doctor. Since he's so aggressive to us, I guess there's no need to talk to him ever again. Ooh, stuff! Our next destination has to be the village. It's been talked about repeatedly, indicated by the first note we found, and now that the human spider is gone, it's surely unguarded, right? The old man is crippled, trapped in a chair that cannot move, and sadly, despite him giving you a quest to repair it, it's a feature that was never fully added to the game, so he'll remain trapped until his inevitable demise. He gives us some more interesting clues regarding the region though, and he's the last villager left of this old homestead, the rest succumbing to plague or being claimed by the woods. Since he can't move and has a very healthy dose of skepticism, he managed to keep from its embrace, and he has but a single goal for us. Eliminate the talking tree. This is where your and my path will also diverge. Had I failed an upcoming section, I would have been forced to acquire an oxygen tank, descend beneath the tree, and burn it once and for all, ending its influence over the woods and burning everyone within alive. This ending in my research is fascinating. In it, the stranger enters the heart of the forest, getting captivated by a dream. Discovering the roots of the woods infiltrating your dream, you escape it by burning the eldritch entity in your nightmare, bursting yourself awake. Your clothes and items would be gone. You're surrounded by hordes of sleepers, other individuals trapped and consumed by the roots to feed the being. The being has no interest in communicating with you, no interest in explaining itself. It has no motive, no reason to do what it does. It simply exists, fortunately for us. One of our fellow soldiers, yes, fellow soldiers. He has a flamethrower and wood burns. Darkwood's arguable good ending ends with an inferno, a blaze that sears the wounded, infected forest from the lands, scorching all the inhabitants along with it, ending its threat permanently. The stranger passes, trapped in the flames. The sleepers burn, oblivious to the coming storm. The surviving villagers, Wolf, the three, all pass on. Arguably, the only person who faces the oncoming end with a smile on his face is the cripple, who watches the end with glee. The last living inhabitant of the flooded village who, just before his death, managed to feast his eyes upon the sight of the enormous tree withering into fire. I didn't experience this ending, but I would refer to this ending as the true ending, so to speak. Personally, I found the ignorance is bliss ending. I found a mysterious tunnel, one of which has a code that the stranger remembers. Descending into its depths, we fall asleep and dream. Weaponless, we sprint through the underground tunnels of our mind, the twists and turns unveiling chompers, human spiders and monsters, all trying to stop us. Duck, dive, dodge, sprinting back and forth before emerging into the doctor's house. No, a facsimile of the house. This isn't the exit. We are still asleep and the chompers are coming. Taking a nearby weapon, we continue to flee, running past the door of teeth and reaching an exit. And as we return to the concrete jungle where we spend most of our lives, we hang up our coat and our hat, go to our bedroom, and after many a sleepless night, we finally have a long, blissful sleep. This ending is one of peace, and one that is apparently incredibly easy to fail. I got lucky. If you die at any point in the dream sequence, the game locks you out of it permanently. But we made it through safely. It's interesting. It's fascinating doing research into this game after the fact, the strings of knowledge and paths the stranger can take being varied and wide. However, the course of the whole experience, you slowly come to realize that nothing in the woods are inherently evil or hostile. They're all part of a living ecosystem, a cancerous growth of a body slowly building and bulging up around the creature known as the being. Even the talking tree is merely a symptom, an amalgamation of consciousness and wood growing up around the eldritch entity to protect it from the outside world. The stranger isn't someone who entered the woods for fun. In fact, he is the last remaining member of a military force who was set in while the infection of the land was still young. Colloquially known as the Outsiders, every other member was eliminated or evacuated, leaving just the stranger and one final slumbering member to carry out the mission, burning the woods or departing. Considering how easy it was to fail the dream sequence, it really is obvious why the entire woods treats you like an invading body, because most likely you will be forced to burn it down and kill everything therein. Everything is wrapped up so damn well, except for the poor cripple's broken wheel. Sorry, dude. This game is a perfect storm of horror and wonder. We'll never ever see another game like it. Some games have tried to captivate it. Other developers have reached out in my inbox with games that they claim to be similar to Darkwood, but there's something so unique about this experience. Something so strange about the world that Acid Wizard Studios cooked up that they will never, ever be another game like Darkwood. I recorded this video before they announced Darkwood 2. Darkwood is back, baby! I'm a little bit worried about the 3D art style, to be perfectly fair, but Darkwood is back with Acid Wizard Studio not necessarily at the development helm, but definitely informing on the project. I'm very excited, though it did kind of ruin the melancholic ending to this video. There will be another game like Darkwood, and hopefully we get access to it soon. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're asleep right now, listening to this or trying to fall asleep, please have some lovely dreams.